It's 1985, and you're sitting in a McDonald's. Your mom's menthol cigarette is smoldering in that little ashtray, filling the whole dining room up with a haze. And your sister's hair, a 6-inch wall of Aquanet that could ignite into a Chernobyl-sized explosion with the tiniest of sparks. And your dad's busy fiddling around with his Casio calculator watch because he thinks the cashier might have robbed him of 37 cents. It was a glorious age. Nintendo was brand new. Walkmans were everywhere. And sitting outside that window, parked next to the curb, sat something even more outrageous than neon leg warmers and shoulder pads. The Chevy K10 Outdoorsman. A massive brick of steel, unapologetically angled, and thirsty enough to drain a small oil field before breakfast. Now, but this just wasn't any K10. The Outdoorsman package came dressed to impress. Heavy-duty suspension, beefier tires, premium fabrics inside, as if anyone buying one there was actually concerned about comfort after tromping through the woods in their boots, and slapped on proudly, custom Outdoorsman badging. This was Chevrolet saying, you don't just drive a truck, you drive a lifestyle. And here's where it goes from sensible to properly barking mad. Because along with the truck, Chevrolet handed you something else. Not a keychain, not a cooler, no. A Winchester rifle. You heard that right. A brand new Chevy pickup and a lever-action Winchester, Model 94 AE XTR in 3030. And this wasn't some token freebie either. This came with a Chevy-branded medallion on the stock, a Tosco rifle scope, a proper locking hard case, a rear window rifle rack, even safety glasses and a Winchester hat, because it was the 1980s and apparently that's all the safety equipment you needed back then. Forget free keychains. You could leave the dealership with an entire hunting season behind the back bench seat. And because this was the peak 1980s, Chevy didn't stop there. They teamed up with ESPN to create the Chevy Sportsman's Team Challenge, a made-for-TV shooting competition. Primetime telly, shoulder pads, mullets, Dick Butkus, and a square-body truck marketed with its own rifle. It wasn't just advertising. It was performance art. Now, let's fast forward nearly 40 years. Production numbers were tiny, fewer than 200, most agree. And finding one today, complete with the original Winchester kit, it's rarer than spotting Bigfoot driving to a Buc-ee's in a Pontiac Fiero. But every so often, one surfaces. And when it does, like the pristine example coming to Collectors Elite Auctions this November, it isn't just a collectible. It's a rolling time machine. A square-bodied slice of Americana, complete with the rifle that won the West, reborn as the rifle that rode shotgun in your Chevy. Now, I know the Venn diagram between car and gun guys is almost a perfect circle. But this one, again, there's just something special about this truck. You know, the square body's beautiful design, but unfortunately Chevy quality in the 80s wasn't quite that great, so we've lost a lot of them to rust and other various forms of cancer. This one's in perfect shape though. You can hear that big V8 rumbling under there. This transmission is honestly smoother than anything I've driven before. And it was just, it was a getaway on four wheels. You had everything you needed in one package. There was no complaining that, oh no, they were offering a gun with a truck. You know, these days, a jeweler offers you a duck shotgun with the purchase of an engagement ring and everyone goes nuts. The 80s were just a simpler time, and in my mind, a better time. And now this one's up on Collectors Elite Auctions. You can get your bid on it right now. You're not just buying a piece of nostalgia. You're not just buying a piece of history. You're honestly buying what made America great. What made us the superpower, the greatest country, the one that people climbed over walls and ran through minefields to get to. Because they could get here and buy a 1985 Chevy Outdoorsman. You couldn't do that in communist Russia. You couldn't do that in East Germany. You can only do that here. You get your Levi's, you got your Bruce Springsteen, you got your Chevy Outdoorsman. It was America, it was the 80s, and honestly, we need to be back there again. And by buying this truck, you get a little piece of that. This isn't the teal leg warmer 80s. You know, this isn't the techno synth pop 80s. This is American 80s, and this is what we were great as a nation, and I kind of wish we were there again. Today, car dealerships might throw in free floor mats or a couple of oil changes. A few might even try and tempt you with a weekend getaway. But in 1985, Chevrolet looked at the competition and said, right, we're going to sell you a truck, but we're going to give you a gun as well. It was bold. It was brash. It was brilliant. The 1985 Chevy Outdoorsman wasn't just a pickup. It wasn't just a marketing stunt. It was a truck and a rifle and an entire era of America, all in one gloriously square, gloriously ridiculous package.